Sunday night football matchup here. Austin, we're going to talk Las Vegas Raiders hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. It's a 57-point over-under.
Right here.
The Chiefs favored by just a touchdown in this one. Not one of the smaller lines for them this year as dominant Super Bowl repeat favorites. As we look at this game, before we look at this game, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and click subscribe, click the like button, and let us know what you're thinking about this matchup in the comments. We'd love to get to those questions and help you win your week. Let's talk about the Chiefs side of the ball, Austin. We know what we get. We get Mahomes, and we get Tyreek Hill, and we get Travis Kelsey. We know we're rocking and rolling with them. I want to talk about the backfield, though, because CEH and Le'Veon Bell, if you were afraid a little bit of Le'Veon Bell at first, maybe that eased, but then lately it just doesn't seem like they're running a lot.
Right? They are not getting a lot of attempts at all between either one of them, which you hate to see. For CEH, 14 yards last week on 5 attempts, 21 yards the week before that on 6 attempts, 46 yards on 8 attempts. The week before that. You go back to week 6, 26 attempts for CEH. You'd love to see that. But 8, 6, 5 after that. And then, he's getting involved on the reception game here with 4 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets the last 3 weeks. But, man, they have so many options in Kansas City, so many opportunities to get it done, which they are getting it done. They don't need to turn to one person. They didn't need to turn to CEH. And you look at Le'Veon Bell, the last few weeks he's been involved with the Kansas City Chiefs. 4 rushing attempts last week, 6 the week before that, 6 the week before that. And he's not doing a lot with them either. CEH has been actually outperforming Le'Veon Bell from a metric standpoint, which makes you very happy as a CEH roster. I said it a few weeks ago. I think that Le'Veon Bell is going to be a mirage for fantasy purposes. He's going to have a couple of games here and there. It's going to be impossible to predict. Their entire running game looks regressed. They don't need this running game. At the same time, Patrick Mahomes' stats have increased. A little slower start for Patrick Mahomes on the year, and he's emerged now as the Patrick Mahomes you drafted in the 1st or 2nd round. And CEH is still the back to start, but Le'Veon Bell is there, does cap his ceiling a little bit, but the whole run game is something just to keep an eye on. I think they straighten it out, and you can be a little more reliable on the run game, but right now you got to hold your breath.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell yet to get over 40 yards as a Chief. I just don't know if you want any part of that. And then you talked about CH getting more of the receiving work out of the backfield there. So let's talk
about Le'Veon, right? And he's going to be a receiving option for them. That hasn't transpired yet.
Yeah.
0 targets his first week, 3 the next, 1 the next. He's had 4 targets since he's been in Kansas City for a total of 26 yards.
Yeah, and I think they picked up Bell as a depth piece with some upside for them, but it's just not going to do anything until CEH or something were to happen to CEH. With the pass catchers, specifically Tyreek Hill, we know what he's going to get. He's been very solid over the last month, basically the whole season so far. He's been really good. Some of the positive regression has been coming his way from last year without Mahomes in the lineup. But I want to talk about outside of Tyreek Hill, especially in this matchup, because I have a sneaking feeling, the Raiders are the Chiefs' only loss. And they embarrassed them a little bit in Kansas City. I could imagine Kansas City coming out here and trying to put a walloping on the Raiders. And I think that could mean big things for some of the pass catchers in this offense.
It definitely could. And you just got to keep an eye right now on a couple of question marks. The 2 wide receivers you would, under normal circumstances, outside of Tyreek Hill, be keeping an eye on would be Sammy Watkins and Nicole Hardman, both of which are dealing with issues. Sammy Watkins could be coming back week 11 from his hamstring issue that's kept him out for the last several weeks. Nicole Hardman is dealing with some COVID restrictions right now. We still don't know if he actually tested positive for COVID or he was a part of the tracing program. This happened before the bye. The good thing for both of them is they both have a chance to be back. You got to keep an eye on that, though. If neither one of them are in, though, oh, my goodness, Darnell Robinson could be in for a smash spot. Even Pringle, keep an eye out there for him. Patrick Mahomes has an ability to really get anybody involved, and Pringle could be having Byron Pringle a huge game, or Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson would be the number 1 if Nicole Hardman and Sammy Watkins are out. But to keep an eye on the health of Watkins and Nicole Hardman, as you said, this could be a really explosive game for the Chiefs.
And obviously, I don't want to leave out without giving some of the fanboys for Travis Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes their due. Travis Kelsey is on an absolute tear this year. He continues to get double-digit. He has 12 or more targets, Austin, in 4 of his games this year. He has 76 or more % snap share in every game. He's got 3 over 100-yard games. He's got touchdowns galore. I mean, the positive regression is there for Travis Kelsey after last year.
Very good wide receiver.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. And then Patrick Mahomes, you know what you're getting there. On the Raiders side of the ball, things are a little more cut and dry as well. We know that it's Josh Jacobs and it's Darren Waller that kind of make the offense go, but Devonta Booker has kind of slowly been creeping up as like an ancillary piece for this offense.
Yeah, he's definitely the one to spell Josh Jacobs. It's not Jalen Richard. And Booker has gotten a little bit more involved as the season has progressed, to last week collecting 16 carries and posting an impressive 81 yards, grabbed a couple of touchdowns, and caught his one pass for 2 yards. But Booker can run. He's not going to take over Josh Jacobs, but this could bring Josh Jacobs' ceiling down a bit. Now, that didn't happen last week. 21 carries, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns of his own, and 4 for 4 on the targets, 24 yards. Big Trav, you and I were talking about if Josh Jacobs could just collect a handful of aerial targets every game, that takes him into real RB1 territory. He's not doing enough with those targets yet to be anointed into that class, but he's getting those opportunities. They're winning games. That's the part I think is the coolest thing of this whole Raiders squad is you've got some rookie wide receivers. You've got some kind of toss-out receivers and guys like Aguilar and I won't put Renfro in that bus, but in that camp, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And they're still just winning games, including against teams like the Chiefs. I'm excited to see what this Raiders team could do moving deeper into the year.
Henry Ruggs kind of had a big game against the Chiefs last time that they played, but this wide receiving room seems to alternate who's going to pop off each and every week, if anybody. Some weeks none of them do. Any interest in this game where you would think that a pass catcher could get it going? Or do you think it's going to be a keep away? We talked about the backs, and we talked about like the last time they played. I think Vegas ran it 30 times. Do you think they play more keep away, or are they going to try and have to push the ball down the field here?
Well, I don't think the game plays out the way it did when these two teams met up earlier in the season in the Raiders and the Chiefs. And you had mentioned before about the Raiders winning this game and the Chiefs wanting to come back and make a statement versus the team that gave them their only loss on the season thus far. And if that's the case, that means they're going to come out, hit you early, go up quick, and force the Raiders to play from behind. If that's the case, game flow would encourage wide receiving options this week. And if you had to go with one, I'm rolling with Henry Ruggs. I know that Aguilar has been the target. He's been taking in most of the passes and doing the most with them. But the last opportunity we had to observe the Raiders, week 10, 62% snap share for Ruggs compared to 60% snap share for Aguilar. So, I mean, it was just one play, but Ruggs was on the field more than any other wide receiver was. He also had 4 targets, which was tied with Aguilar for the most on the team, outside of Waller, who had 5. And he caught 3 passes, which was tied with Darren Waller for the most amount of receptions on the team last week. Ruggs has the most explosive play to his game. This is the fastest wide receiver in last year's draft. He was the number 1 wide receiver in an extremely talented wide receiver class. I don't think Ruggs is going to emerge as the best wide receiver from that class, but he might be the fastest receiver in that class who could be collecting a lot of targets this week. He was the number 1 wide receiving option for Carr last week, and if they do get down early, keep an eye out for Carr to be looking at Ruggs to narrow that lead.
Darren Waller's been up and down like most tight ends, but he continues to be a top 5 option most weeks. Nothing really to report here with Waller, Austin. You've got to fire him up, right?
You don't sit Darren Waller. You never sit Darren Waller. In PPR formats, he's tied for the tight end too. He's right there, but it's just kind of been, as you pointed it out, a disappointing year. If we take out the touchdowns, just look at his yards the last several weeks: 37 yards, 22 yards, 27 yards. 50 yards, 48 yards. It's not numbers you're really stoked on, but this is still enough for a top 3 tight end. That's how tight ends go. It's the position you've got in your squad, just like your opponent does as well. I would rather have Darren Waller than probably almost any other tight end, outside of Kelsey, outside of a couple of options there, obviously. But Waller's your guy, and you feel really good about it. Not compared to a wide receiver running back, but you got running backs and wide receivers to fill those roles.
Austin, Derek Carr started off the year with 4 out of 6 games with 20 or more points. The last 3 weeks, he has not broken 20 points. How are you feeling about this matchup? This is a high over-under, 57 points. You should feel somewhat okay about Derek Carr into this one, but the Chiefs' secondary has been pretty good, and it seems like you maybe attack them on the ground. Are you interested in Derek Carr at all this week?
I took the bait last week, started him in a league of record going up. It's another game Vegas suggested was going to be a high-scoring game against Denver. Denver does better on the ground defending the run than they do in the pass. I was like, hey, this should be a great game for Derek Carr and not so much Josh Jacobs. Flip that, though. It was an amazing game for Josh Jacobs. Derek Carr got you like 7 points in fantasy. But this week, I don't think they're going to have that luxury of running the ball 21 times with Josh Jacobs and 16 times with Devontae Booker. I think this ends up looking like a game where, Josh Jacobs had 15 carries and Devontae Booker had 4 or 5, and Derek Carr was forced to throw the ball over 30 times a game. It's the game for Carr to step up and have to produce for the team to win. But I've taken the bait, and I've bit the hard one here. And the Kansas City Chiefs do have the 3rd best pass defense in the NFL. They're no slouches, so Derek Carr really could come out and try to do his best, throw the ball a bunch, turn it over 2 times, get you 1 touchdown. I think that this is a good run for Carr. Carr's deep ball metrics have looked really good. The opportunities have been there, but the last couple of weeks have been really down. But if you need a streamable option, you can't look at the numbers and say that Carr is a bad streamable option this week.
All right, well, that does it for us, Whisper Nation. If you've got any other conundrums with your lineups this week, make sure you comment below or hit us up on any social media platform. For Austin Sear, I am Big Travie, and we are the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out. Peace. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click subscribe. And if you want to watch more fantasy football content, check out one of these videos.